to the dipole length. Okay, the perpendicular line drawn to the dipole is nothing but we call that one as the equatorial line we call. So P is a point which is situated on the equatorial line, and we need to find the electric field due to both the positive and negative charges. Okay, as you know that the E1 represents the electric field due to the positive charge, and E2 represents the electric field due to the negative charge. Okay, and the electric field E gives the resultant of that E1 and E2. Right, that was the thing. And next we just went through about resolving E1 and E2. Okay, so when you resolve E1 and E2 into two components, the sign components of E1 and sign component of E2 get cancels. The left out thing is nothing but cos theta component of E1 and E2. So both they gets add up. So by mathematics we are going to add that one. By simplification we are going to get a equation of uh, vector E is equal to minus of 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into P vector divided by R square plus L square to the power of 3 by 2, which is denoted by equation 1, right? So if the distance of if they are at a large distance, what happens if you consider the case where small r is very much greater than L? So what happens, we can neglect the L square in the denominator. So if that is the case, so equation 1 reduces to vector E is equal to minus 1 by 4 pi epsilon into vector P divided by R cube. Okay, so this is regarding the electric field on the point on the equatorial line. So I hope there is no doubt, right, in this derivation. Any doubts you can ask, or else we will move to the next topic. Any doubts? Okay, fine. See, next topic comes out to be polar molecules and non-polar molecules. Okay, so about these polar molecules and non-polar molecules, I'm going to just explain what is this and the example. Okay, in depth of this polar molecule and non-polar molecules we are going to study in the next chapter, that is in electric potential. Okay, so in that chapter I'm going to explain in detail about this. So as of now I'll just explain the meaning of that, what do you mean by this polar and non-polar molecules and the examples of that. So here, coming to the polar molecules, uh, polar molecules, in some molecules the center of positive charges and negative charges do not coincide. Therefore, these molecules have a permanent electric dipole moment, and they are permanent dipoles. Such molecules are called polar molecules. Examples for these polar molecules are water, ammonia, HCl. Okay, so see here, what is the meaning of that? It says that the center of positive charges and negative charges do not coincide. Okay, that means that when you take a molecule, you have a positive charge and negative charge. See, how we are going to denote the polar molecules is nothing but I'm just drawing on the screen itself. Just see that. See, we have both positive and negative charges. So both positive and negative charges do not coincide here. Okay, do not coincide. That means that there is some space. There is both positive and negative charges is separated by a small distance there. Okay, so both the positive and negative charges is separated by a small distance. Okay, so hence we say that uh, when the positive and negative charge get separated by a small distance, what do we call that one as electric dipole, right? So hence this polar molecules we call it has a permanent dipoles. Okay, it has a permanent electric dipole. Okay, so this is regarding the polar molecule. See, once again I'm going to repeat. See, polar molecules are nothing but, as you know that in the molecule you have two charges, that is you have positive charge and negative charges. Coming to polar molecules, in the case of polar molecules the positive and negative charge has been separated by a small distance. Okay, so as we know that we have studied about this electric dipole, right? Electric dipole is nothing but what? Two equivalent opposite charges separated by a small distance, right? So the same as this. Okay, you have two charges, one is positive and one is negative. It has been separated by a small distance, and hence we call this type of molecules as polar molecules, and this polar molecules has a permanent electric dipole moment. Okay, so the example for this is nothing but water and ammonia HCl. Okay, so this is regarding the polar molecules. In the figure you can see the examples here. Okay, so next, coming to the non-polar molecules, I'll just read out that paragraph, just go through. In most molecules, the centers of positive charges and negative charges coincide, therefore the dipole moment is zero. Such molecules are called non-polar molecules. Examples: molecules of H2, O2, N2, CO2 and NH4. Okay, so here, coming to this non-polar molecules is nothing but, in this case, the center of positive and negative charges coincides. Okay, there is no separation between this positive charge and negative charges in this case of non-polar molecules. Okay, so hence, if there is no space, you can say that there is no dipole moment. Okay, so we can say that the dipole moment of this non-polar molecules is zero. Okay, so how we are going to represent this non-polar molecules is nothing but, see here, like this. This is a positive charge and this is a negative charge. Okay, so you can see both positive and negative charges is not being separated. Okay, just like it's been both positive and negative charges is coinciding. Okay, we say it is coinciding, so hence both the charges, positive and negative charges, has been not separated. So hence we call this non-polar molecules doesn't have the dipole moment, or else we say that the dipole moment of a non-polar molecules is nothing but equal to zero, we call. Okay, so examples is, as you know, that H2, O2, N2. Okay, so this is regarding the polar molecules and non-polar molecules. Is it fine? Is it fine, students? Followed? Yes, please do reply. In case if you understood, reply. Okay, so coming to the next topic, that is torque on dipole in a uniform electric field. Okay, torque on a dipole in a uniform electric field. So before starting with the uh, sentence, okay, before starting with the theoretical part, we will just focus on the figure. Okay, see here, as you know that there is a electric field, this is a uniform electric field. Okay, so which has been represented here, this is a uniform electric field which is denoted by vector E. Okay, so next what we have done is, we have just placed a electric dipole. Okay, we have placed an electric dipole. As you can see here, this is an electric dipole which makes an angle theta. So this electric dipole makes an angle theta with the electric field. Okay, and as you know that in an electric dipole you have one positive charge and one negative charge, right? You have here. So at point A there is a positive charge and at point B you have a negative charge. Okay, so next, as you know that the 2L represents the distance between the dipole, electric dipole, right? So now as you can see here, what is the force experienced by the charge? How you are going to write? So electric field formula is nothing but equal to E is equal to Q by E is equal to F by Q, right? E is equal to F by Q. In order to find the force, F is equal to E into Q, we are going to write. Correct? So F is equal to E into Q. So F denotes the force experienced by the charge. So now Q is a charge placed in the electric field. As you can see, this positive charge experiences a force towards the right. Okay, so that is what they have given. F is equal to Q into E, which is directed towards the right. So next you can see the negative charge here. Okay, so which experiences the force towards the left. Okay, so the force experience is nothing but equal to F is equal to minus Q into E. Okay, so this is regarding the explanation of the figure. Okay, so see here what happens. I'll brief once again. You have a uniform electric field where you are going to place an electric dipole, where the electric dipole makes an angle theta with the direction of electric field. So since you have two charges there, So the positive charge experiences the force towards the right, and the negative charge experiences the force towards the left. Okay. So see, and one thing I need to say, why is this force positive charge experiences the force towards the right? Why not towards the left? And why is this negative charge experiences the force towards the left? Why it is not towards the right? Anyone? Anyone who know the answer? You can give the answer for this. B current resultant vector direction, because electric moves away from positive charge. Okay. In other words, you can say that here always the direction of electric field is from positive to negative, right? So since this is a positive charge here, it experiences a force of repulsion, so it moves towards the right. So this negative charge, since this is a negative charge, so it experiences a force of attraction towards the positive. So the negative charge experiences force towards the left, and the positive charge towards the right. Okay, that is the meaning. So this is regarding the explanation of the figure. So now it's time to derive the derivation, that is the expression, mathematical expression. So here just I'll read out the explanation of the figure. Consider a dipole of moment P is equal to Q into 2L kept at an angle theta in a uniform field of strength vector E. Then a force vector F is equal to plus Q vector E acts on the positive charge, and a force F is equal to minus QE acts on the negative charge. Here both forces are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction, which brings the torque rotational effect on the dipole. Okay. So as you know that, except about the torque, rest of the part I have explained. As you know that, see here the force experienced by the positive charge. So that is nothing but the force experienced by the positive charge will be towards the right side, and the force experienced by the negative charge is towards the left side. As you can see, both the force experienced by positive charge and negative charge are both are in equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. So hence what happens, due to this the electric dipole experiences a torque. Okay, experiences a torque is nothing but it experiences a rotational effect. Okay, so this electric dipole, due to the force experienced by both positive and negative charge, experiences a torque. Okay, that is nothing but rotational effect. So how we are going to express the torque? First of all, so as you can see, the torque is nothing but expressed denoted by the letter tau, right? So tau is equal to, we are going to write force experienced by any of the charge, into perpendicular distance we are going to write. Okay, so you can see there in the next line we have written here, in this case F into perpendicular distance is nothing but we have taken as AC there. So see here in the figure we are going to draw a dotted line. Okay, dotted line here. So this is the angle theta. You can see in the figure there is angle theta. So what we are going to do is we are going to take the sine value for this triangle, that is ABC. Consider a triangle ABC. So value of sine theta comes out to be, what is sine theta? Sine theta is nothing but equal to opposite by hypotenuse, right? Opposite by hypotenuse. So which is opposite here? AC is the opposite, right? AC is the opposite, divided by hypotenuse is nothing but what? 2L, right? So sine theta is equal to AC divided by 2L. So I want the value of AC now. What I'm going to do is I'll take the AC on the left hand side, I'll sign the sine theta on the right hand side. So if I do that, AC comes out to be, AC is equal to 2L sine theta, right? Mathematically. So that is what has been written there. Okay. So here we have substituted the value of AC there. F is nothing but the force experienced by any of the charge we can take. So for our convenient purpose, we are going to take the force experienced by the positive charge. Okay. So force experienced by the positive charge is nothing but Q into Q into E into AC value comes out to be 2L sin theta. As you know that Q into 2L is nothing but what? It is nothing but the dipole moment. So Q into 2L is replaced by P. So left out thing is E sin theta. So as you know that if there is a sin theta, you can express that equation in the form of cross product, right? So that is nothing but you can express that one as tau is equal to P into E. Okay, vector P into vector E. Tau vector is equal to vector P into vector E. So this is the expression. Okay, tau is equal to Pe sin theta. Okay, so next we have cases. Okay, as you know that the first case comes out to be here in the vector form. You are going to write the torque. You are going to express the torque as tau vector is equal to vector P into vector E. Right? Since it is a sin theta, we are going to express in terms of cross product. So now it's time to see in which position. Okay, in which position this electric dipole experiences the maximum torque. Okay, so as you know that if tau is equal to 0, okay, that means that when will be the tau is equal to 0? Let us suppose say that when the theta is equal to 0 or 180 degree. Okay, so see here, if this is my electric field, okay, if this is the electric field, what happens? As of now, the electric dipole is making some angle with respect to electric field, right? Let us say that the electric dipole is along the direction of electric field. Okay, that means that theta is equal to 0 degree, or if you reverse that electric dipole, let us say, or theta is equal to 180 degree. If that is the case, what happens? The torque will be minimum, because theta sin 0 is 0, sin 180 is nothing but it is also a 0. Okay, sin 0 is 0, sin 180 is also a 0. So hence the torque experienced, it will be nothing but equal to a 0. Okay, whenever the electric dipole is placed parallel or anti-parallel, we call. Okay, parallel or anti-parallel, if you place, the torque experienced by the electric dipole is 0. Next, when does this electric dipole experiences a maximum torque? Okay, if this is your electric field, and if you place the electric dipole in this way, okay, which makes an angle of 90 degree. Okay, so where you are going to place the electric dipole perpendicular to the electric field, so what happens? This electric dipole experiences the maximum torque, because sin 90 is nothing but equal to 1, right? So hence we say that sin 90, whenever the theta is equal to 90 degree, so the torque experienced by the electric dipole will be maximum. So hence the value comes out to be, torque value comes out to be P into E. Okay, so this is regarding the torque experienced by the electric dipole when placed in an uniform electric field. Okay, so I'll do one thing. So I'll give you few minutes, just go through about the derivation. Okay, just go through about the figure, the same thing, express that in terms of mathematical form, so that in case if you have any doubts, please let me know, I'll clear your doubts. Okay, just for a 2 minutes, just go through about this derivation. In your examination, this derivation will be asked for 3 marks. It is an important derivation. Okay, so please go through. Okay, any doubts, students? So in case if you have any doubts, you can ask, or we will move to the next topic. Is it clear? Shall we move to the next topic? Okay, fine. Coming to the next topic, that is area vector. Okay, area vector is denoted by ds vector. Okay, so I'll just read out the definition of that. So area vector is nothing but defined as a small area of a surface enclosing a given volume can be represented as a vector. Okay, I'll just read out the theory part. For example, a small element of area ds of a surface S can be represented by an area vector ds vector as shown in the figure. Length of this vector is equal to the magnitude ds. The direction of vector ds is perpendicular to the surface and outwards. If this direction is represented by a unit vector n vector n cap, then area vector is given by ds vector is equal to ds into n cap. So see here, the meaning of this is nothing but uh, the definition of area vector is nothing but it is defined as a small area of a surface enclosing a given volume. So in the figure you can see there S is a surface. Okay, S is a surface. In that surface we have taken a small volume. Okay, okay, S is a surface. In that we have taken a small area. Okay, small area is nothing but that is nothing but ds. Okay, like a small element. S is a surface. Okay, in that we have taken a small element, or you can say that a small area. Okay, that is ds. Okay, which is represented in dark color there. Okay, ds. So whenever you take that small area, okay, so that area vector can be represented as, so whenever you say a vector, okay, so we always express that vector in terms of position, I mean sorry, the magnitude and direction, right? So magnitude is nothing but what it says about the value, right? So into direction. So in the case of this area vector also it is one and the same. Okay, so you have a area of s, in that we have taken a small element. Okay, that is nothing but ds vector we take. So that ds vector can be represented as ds into n cap here. Okay, where ds gives the magnitude of that small element what you have taken. Okay, ds gives the magnitude of that small element what you have taken. Into n cap is nothing but it gives the direction. Okay, it gives the direction. Always here, whenever you take a surface element, okay, okay, whenever you take a surface element, the area vector of that will be always perpendicular to the surface. Okay, the direction of area vector will be always perpendicular to the surface what you have taken. Okay, it will be always perpendicular. Fine, this is regarding the area vector. Okay, is it fine? Area vector is denoted by ds vector, that is nothing but equal to ds denotes the magnitude of that small element what you have taken, into n cap is nothing but it says about the direction. Okay, so always the direction of the area vector will be perpendicular to the surface whichever you take. Okay, you keep this surface in whichever direction. Okay, upward, downward, towards left, towards right, always the area, the direction of that area vector will be perpendicular to the surface. Okay, so this is regarding the area vector. Is this fine about this area vector? Because in case if I have any doubts, please let me ask. When we are solving the applications of Gauss theorem, this area vector is very important. By making use of this itself, we are going to derive the derivations of the applications of Gauss law. That is why. So have you people understood about this area vector? Is it clear? Yes, please do reply. Have you understood? Okay, fine. I think we are left out with 7 minutes. Okay, let me complete that electric flux. Okay, Okay, good. Yashaswini, okay. Coming to the electric flux. See there, electric flux is defined as electric flux linked with any surface is defined as the total number of electric field lines passing through that surface. Okay. See here, the electric flux is nothing but, how we are going to define it, is nothing but the number of electric field lines passing through a given surface. Let us say that you can see in the figure that you have a surface S. Okay, you have a surface which is denoted by S. Okay, so let us say that you have kept the surface perpendicular to the direction of electric field. So what happens when you place the surface perpendicular to the direction of electric field? So what happens? More number of electric field lines pass through that, right? So hence we say that the electric flux is maximum. Okay, when is the electric flux is maximum? Electric flux is maximum when you place the surface perpendicular to the direction of electric field. Okay, and at that case we are going to represent the electric flux as, electric flux is denoted by the letter phi, that is nothing but equal to E into S, where S is the surface and E denotes the electric field. Okay, so when electric field lines are perpendicular to the surface, electric flux is maximum. So let us take the next case, that is when the electric field lines are parallel to the surface. So what happens? Just imagine yourself itself. Okay, just place that surface. Okay, in the figure you are saying it is perpendicular, just make it parallel. Okay, when you keep the surface parallel to the direction of the electric field, what happens? The electric flux will be nothing but equal to 0. Why is that? Because no electric field lines can pass through the given surface if it is parallel to the direction of electric field. Okay, so hence this is regarding the electric flux, and we denote the electric flux as the number of electric field lines passing through the given surface. Okay, so I'll just repeat once again. When the electric fields are perpendicular to the surface, we say that the electric flux is maximum, and the equation for that comes out to be phi is equal to E into S. That means that we say that the electric flux is maximum in this case. Suppose the case is when you place the surface parallel to the direction of electric field, or else when the electric field is parallel to the direction of the surface. Okay, so what happens when the surface is parallel to the direction of electric field? So no electric field lines passes through the given surface. So hence the electric flux comes out to be 0, and we say that it is minimum. Okay, so this is regarding the electric flux. Okay, is it fine, students? So again, this area vector and electric flux, both the things we are going to make use in the upcoming derivation, that is in the applications of Gauss law. Again, that applications of Gauss law, we have 3 derivations in that. In that 3, any one will be asked for 5 marks in your final examination. Okay, so you should be aware of this, both area vector and electric flux. Okay, so the direction of area vector will be always perpendicular to the surface. Okay, it will be always normal to the surface, we call direction of area vector to the surface. And electric flux will be maximum when the surface is normal to the electric field. When the surface is parallel to the electric field, the flux will be minimum, that is 0. Okay, so these things you should be very clear. Okay, so whenever when I am solving that deriving the derivation of that applications of Gauss law, if I say that electric flux, when is electric flux is minimum and when is electric flux is maximum, you need to answer. Okay, you need to answer, so that once you are aware of these things, when is electric field is maximum, minimum, area vector when it is perpendicular and all, so it will be very easy to you people to understand the derivations, applications of Gauss law. Okay, okay, fine, we have left out with 2 minutes. So let me know in case if you have any doubts, please let me know, or else we will conclude today's class. Any doubts? Okay, Meghana Manjunath, no sir, no doubt. Okay, Srijan, no doubt. How about others? Okay, Harshita, we know that. Okay, Nikhil, no doubt. Sneha, okay, Josen, okay, fine, good. Good to see that you people have understood this concepts. Okay, so after the session, okay, after the class, please go through about that derivation, that is the torque experienced by an electric dipole placed in an electric field. As I have said, it will be asked for 3 marks. It is a pakka question. Okay, and just go through about this area vector and electric flux also. So in the upcoming derivations we will make use of that. Okay, with this thing I'll conclude today's class. Okay students, thank you.